welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And I'd like to thank you guys for coming back to our next season, which is a season 4. So that's a bit good. So thanks for coming back to listen to us again.
We had a nice break over Christmas in January. Back in February, whatever the date is, I can't remember. I'm out of touch. And
so he is.
I had my birthday the other week, didn't I?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah, to get
Anyway,
my
so we're back and we got some really good reviews for you guys, and I hope you guys may enjoy them. I may be including some more new stuff along the way, like maybe a bit more cartoons, a little bit more TV series, hopefully
animated,
and hopefully some new movies. Fingers crossed that will be worth reviewing.
Yeah, we're still going to do sci-fi and slasher movies and stuff, but it gets to the stage where there's other good movies and things we want to actually put out there. Review and bring it to your attention. So, I mean, like tonight's thingy-wingy we're going to do is really left of centre. A lot of you people out there probably would have got no idea this exists.
No, it's under the radar. That's one of the reasons why I like about movies and TV series that are under the radar, because you don't know about them until you actually
someone tells you about them. Like us.
So anyway, so here we'll begin. So what's the name of this cartoon we're reviewing, Mike?
It's not a cartoon, it's an anime. Okay? It's an animation, not a cartoon. It's not Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go. It's a Japanese manga story series which was converted to an anime production. There we go. That's the best way to put it.
Good.
This was actually put together and began airing in about 2012, about 10 years ago. Now, it's called Kamisama Kiss. Now, literal translation is I became a god, or God began, or debut as a deity.
Yeah.
Whatever. It all means the same bloody thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, in short, guys, this is not a religious film or anything like that.
It's not a fun fantasy.
This is sort of a fantasy that deals with a little bit of mythology and a bit of other stuff that's thrown in from Japanese, history, mythology.
So now I'm going to apologise before we start doing anything. If there's any Japanese people out there and we get our pronunciations wrong, sorry, I'm not Japanese. I never studied Japanese. I've got no idea how to speak the language. So. And Sarah's going to stumble over words like you wouldn't believe as well. So we're apologising before. Okay. Right. I won't say too much about it because it's being animated. It was actually the original series was written and illustrated by Julieta Suzuki. I don't know her, obviously, but it was serialised and Hakishina's Shoujo manga magazine, Hana to Yum, from February 2008 to 2016. So it went over quite a few years. And I put into about 25 different volumes called Tankobon volumes, I believe.
Yeah, I believe that there's like 25 volumes out there.
Well, yeah, that's it, now, the series was licensed for a release in North America by Viz Media as part of this Sojo Beat imprint, whatever that is. Now, so they thought it was good enough to put out there, and we think it's good enough to review. Now, I'll go through a few of these things, but please bear with me some of the pronunciations here. Right. I ain't going for the main cast. I couldn't be bothered doing everybody because I think there's a cast of thousands like it says to be the middle job.
Well, not really.
Considering this is a cartoon, other gods and demigods and the greengrocer.
This is a cartoon and it doesn't have extras or stuff like that. Okay. It's mostly usually focused on the leads and the co-stars, mostly.
I am going to mention the name of the character, and I'm going to mention the two voicings of them because there's a Japanese voicing and the English voicing. Yeah, so here we are. Mate, the main characters, Nanami, I won't try to say her last name. She was voiced by Suzuko Memori. She did the Japanese, and Tia Ballard did the English. Now, she's our main leading lady in the adventure.
Yeah, she's sort of a land god who...
Or a young girl who becomes a land god.
A young girl, say a teenager, who's handed over the responsibilities and the duties of being a land god. Don't ask me what that means, but it sounds good.
Now, she is protected by a bit like a familiar, like witches and stuff have. His name is Tomoe.
Yes.
Now, in the Japanese version, it was, voiced by Shinosuke Takibana, I think is the right pronunciation, and J. Michael Tatum did the English version of the audio.
He's got a nice voice to him.
Yeah. Now, the person who put her in this predicament was a god called Mikazi.
Yeah, that's the land god who originally had the role, but handed over to her.
He decided to abdicate for a couple of years. Yeah. Now, anyway, the Japanese voicing was Akira Ishida, and the English was Joel McDonald. Now, Korama, he was something like, pretends to be a fallen god who's a rock star.
Yeah.
He's actually a crow.
Don't get the wrong idea.
And he's a crow. And he's morphed into him, whatever. But yeah. Anyway, voiced by Tetsuki Kishio, as it does the Japanese, and Sean O'Connor does the English. Here is one of my favourite ones.
Yeah, a weird one.
Mizuki. He's this weird snake creature god.
Familiar. He's not a god.
It's familiar. Sorry, yeah. He used to have a god that he looked after, but he's a snake, and he's also represents himself as a human being.
Yes.
Now,
both Tomoe and Mizuki are both humans, but they also have animalistic appearances about them.
Tomoe used to be a fox, it became a human-like.
So he kind of has these pointy ears.
He looks so cute.
He has this bushy tail. You may not see it very often, but
you see it occasionally.
Go on.
How do you hide a tail like that? Now, Mizuki was voiced by Nobuhiko Okamoto. Did the Japanese, and Micah Solasod did the English. There you go.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anymore.
I do wonder whether or not familiars may have been also... There might be a...
they're protectors.
I know they're protectors and witches, but I do wonder if other myths and legends, they may include the odd story about familiars here and there.
Know. I'm your snake. I'm your familiar.
Like their roles and what they do, in different cultures. What their stories are about, which is probably interesting in this one. So I'll dive into the story now.
Well, you might as well.
Yes.
My tongue's in 2 knots by now, but trying to say all these funny names.
Yes. So the story begins with our leading lady. Her name is what's her name, Mike?
You tell me.
Nanamui. And she lives with her drop dead.
Her mother passed away, and she was living with her father, who had a gambling problem.
Yeah.
And he buggered off, and then she got thrown out of the house by the landlord. And
somehow she was evicted, and therefore she becomes homeless, meaning she has no one else to turn to. No other family, no other relations. She's just alone.
All by herself.
So she's in the park, and there she meets a man named, what's his name?
Mikaji,
who's chased up a tree like a cat, by a dog.
A dog. Yeah, he's terribly afraid of animals or dogs. Anyway,
and
little dog, really cute.
So Namre was able to shoo the dog away. Shoo. And the guy starts talking to her, and she tells him her story about being evicted, losing her one guardian, and having no place to live. So he says, in a calm way, why don't you come live in my own house?
I'm not using it.
And
sounds like a really rich guy, doesn't he?
And he says that he also left and abandoned his own little home of his. So he gives her the address on a piece of paper. Well, not address, it's more of a map.
Yeah, go there.
And he then gives her a brief kiss on the forehead.
Very nice.
And so she takes the little piece of paper and heads to this place. To her horror, it's
not a horror.
No, she gets
shock.
To her shock. It's a shrine. And she says, that's the last time I listened to an adult. Type of thing.
Blah, blah, blah.
That's the anime. When people... Anime, they often do act funny.
Go over the top a bit, but it's fun. Yeah.
Anyway, the shrine or its spirits inside it keeps saying, beckoning her to come inside. Or actually, the previous owner, they mention, obviously. But of course...
Makaji is back.
Yeah.
Or something. Makaji.
They kept saying, Makaji. And she enters...
I'll explain. When he kissed her, he sealed her somehow or other with a bit of his godlike powers. And they were picking up on the fact that it was his powers.
Yeah.
But it wasn't him, obviously.
Yeah. Two little spirits, no more like kiddie forms, appear along with a familiar called Tomoe, who wanted to rush her and kick her butt, but actually he realized, oh, you're not him.
Yeah.
And he realized, and she explained the situation, and then they find out she is now the land god spirit who's in charge of the shrine.
So people go there and pray, and this shrine had something to do with
matchmaking,
lovemaking, love matches and stuff.
Yeah, it does the other.
Not love making, no,
don't get me wrong.
No, relationships or
stuff.
But
Tomoe, he doesn't like the idea of working under a human. Yeah, he has this whole bigot against humans.
Yeah, he's biased, buddy animal. I don't know.
And he says, if she's staying, I'm leaving. So he backs off. He's not going to take her seriously as his new boss.
I wouldn't.
So he heads off, and she stays around. And the next morning, she cleans the place top to bottom, and she soon eventually hears one of her powers. It's able to hear the prayers of the prayer.
Yeah, the people who come up there and pray and
ask for guidance or wishes for something.
Help with a relationship and that sort of stuff.
Anyway, so she realizes that she's out of her depth. So she decides to go with the little spirits to try to find Tomoe and plead with him to come back to the shrine, because she knows right away that he does do interesting things. His original owner, he was gone away for 20 years, and he was keeping up the log of previous prayers from the previous...
Which hadn't been answered?
Which were not been answered for 20 years.
Bit of a backlog in the work, I had the same problem.
It's like keeping the minutes for meetings or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway...
Wait a minute. Sorry.
So she decides to head there, and he's at the red light district in a sort of another dimension or another world. I don't know the name of it because it's not really important. Anyway, she eventually...
Well, it must be another dimension because it's something like a brothel, and they all had fox ears and stuff too. So
yeah, see, this dimension it represents the dark corners of our world. Pretty much, is what they described it. Meaning, every part of this world has a dark, shadowy thing that it represents the dark side to life or to the world. And this is where these so-called places are, and these very places kind of bring negative demons or energies coming from those dark places.
Ooh.
Anyway, so she goes to the red light district with the spirits, and he keeps saying, no, I'm not going to go back to her. She is not important to me, and therefore the shrine is not important to me. I'm staying here. And she gets tired of listening to his selfishness by saying he's disgusting, and she leaves. And of course the spirits tried to plead with her and say, you can try to make him your familiar. And she says, okay, how? And they say, the only way you can make him your familiar is by kissing him on the lips.
Yay,
and hence the term kiss. Even though Mike explained it to me already, this is not what it means.
Not in the name, I don't think.
But it seems to be up there. Anyway,
it works for me.
Anyway, she then runs away from the side. She does not want to kiss him. Trust me.
He wasn't bad looking for a fox who turned human.
He's gorgeous, like in a Davy Bowie type way, Mike described.
He looked rather cute, actually. Yeah. The girls like him.
Yeah. Anyway, she then runs into an old hag. No, I'm not being rude or anything.
Oh, your sister.
No.
No.
And she tries to help her, and even though she's actually a demon or evil entity, and the entity starts chasing her, and the little spirits tell her about using these white talismans to write down.
A little slip of paper, and you just write a spell on it.
Yeah, you write a spell, like write what you want, and in order to either send out that spell. And she tries it on one of the spirits, but it doesn't work. So she tries again, this time using on a log in order to create a double for herself to escape. But of course, this doesn't fool the creature for long. It continues chasing her. And her last talisman, she writes down to Tomoe to come to her aid. And when he does come to her aid, he mocks her. He says, okay, I'll be able to help you if you say sorry for being nasty to me, and say, please, Tomoe, please help me, blah, 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 stuff like that. But she is not going for that.
Ain't gonna happen.
But eventually she does grab him and then seals the deal, kiss him. And he gets annoyed at this, saying, "You damn you," or "bust, damn you." And he eventually saves her, and he tells the old hag, by hitting her and kicking her, saying, "How dare you? You just made me a familiar when I was just enjoying my freedom." Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, had the same problem.
So they head back to the shrine. And there, Tomoe does show that he's how well he works, even though he's stuck being a slave to her and to her will. And he tries to teach her a few things about the talismans. He tries to use she tries using one of the talismans to turn water into sake. You know, the wine.
And guess what?
Doesn't work.
It tastes really good, fine tasting water.
Yeah, there you go. Take that. Anyway, I'm moving ahead.
I can turn water into alcohol. I can. I do it all the time. I got mine still. Anyway,
she hears about that of a rock star, a pop idol, who's going to her school. So she wants to head down there and goes to see the school she's at is actually the school he's going to. So she wants to go there to meet the idol. But of course, Tomoe tells her, "You're not going to school without hiding away your mark." So he gives her this weird cat-like, hoodie.
It looks cute in it, but doesn't like it.
Of course not. It makes her embarrassed, and the worst thing is everyone knows about the fact her dad's a bum.
Yeah, he's run away, and debts collectors after him and stuff.
She meets the pop idol. What's his name?
Come on, Karama.
He when they meet, he says, "I don't like your hoodie," or he just says something about a hoodie. He says, "Yo, hoodie, get out of my chair."
Yeah.
And this humiliates her and all the kids start sniggering.
I would try to round up his bum, honestly.
And the other students start sniggering and saying, "Who's that girl he's talking with? Oh, that's who's got the bum for a father, yada yada." And she decides to head to the bathroom, and where she meets Tomoe, who says, "Okay, you've come to school, let's go home." He doesn't like the fact that she's putting school ahead of her work.
Yeah, exactly. She has to answer all his prayers.
Yeah, true. And she has a job to do as the land god. Of course, she says that she just pretty much leaves, and eventually the idol appears, telling her that he's sorry for being nasty, and therefore tries to ask her for forgiveness. But she says to him that she doesn't want his forgiveness because she refuses to look him in the face and refuses to speak to him.
He was rather cute, though. Yeah,
he was cute.
Yeah. She should have,
Yeah. Also, he has a secret reason for being nice, because he knows that she's a land god, and he wants to bite into her heart so he can become a land god.
Exactly right. See?
Of course, Tomoe was able to transform into an emu, or not an emu, or an ostrich.
Yeah, ostrich.
And he chases
We
them.
have emus in Australia.
Yeah, and he chases them around the school in a funny way. He's so hilarious.
Well, there you go.
And eventually, after a bit of chasing, Namue was able to sit him down and say, okay, we'll change you back, but you must behave yourself. And I think he was very touched with her niceness.
Yes, he was forgiving and caring and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and
of course, Tomoe's like, okay, I'll change him back, but what about what we're going to have for dinner?
Yeah, exactly.
And he then gets annoyed when she fixes up the idol's face, and he says, "Okay, his wounds are definitely needed because he was being nasty and all that stuff." But she decides to say, "You don't need fixing up. He definitely needs it." And he says, tomorrow you're going to be wearing your hoodlum. Yeah. And she says, "No the hell way," stuff like that.
Will you get on with this crap,
sorry,
please?
it's hilarious. Most of the conversations they get up to.
Yes, I know.
Anyway, the next people she meets is a spirit, or not a spirit, another god who comes to visit her to help her match her up with a human. And she kind of helps her, and she's actually a bit of a fish god. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, the lady from the river. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
It looks like a bit of a fish, doesn't she? Yeah. Little mouth and everything else, and funny eyes.
But once that Tomoe was able to transform her into a more of a human-like form, she looks presentable, and the boy eventually falls for her. And I don't know how it happens, maybe behind the scenes, but he does eventually find out who she really is, like, where she came
fish
from.
Goddess, whatever.
Anyway, moving on to our next story. In the next episode, she meets up with another sort of familiar who comes in a snake form, who comes to her school, and he's being picked on by other students at the school. So luckily, Namue was able to grab it and take it outside and telling it to shoo.
Yeah, so people wouldn't hurt him.
But she somehow gets these weird markings around her wrist, which indicates that he's sealed her to become his bride.
Oh, yes, somewhat.
Something like that. And, of course, he's going to come for her. And eventually, Tomoe does come to the school to protect Namue from getting abducted. But unfortunately, when he was asleep, she did get eventually abducted and taken to the snake's shrine of sorts.
Yes.
And this guy is, of course, what's his name?
Mizuki.
And he tries to be nice, and of course he tries to plead with her to stay and all that stuff.
Because his goddess had disappeared so many years before, or died, or something or other.
She probably died. God,
somehow or other.
Yeah,
or something happened anyway, and he was lonely for her.
Yeah. And he was hoping that one day he would find someone to replace her in love. Well, not well.
He had an affection for his master, mistress, whatever. Yeah.
And he's not a good cook. Tomoe, on the other hand, he's a great cook.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the dishes he makes in this series is delicious looking. And if I were in Japan, I would love to check out their dishes. If I ever did go over there. Anyway, so Tomoe was able to save the day and was able to save her. And eventually, Mizuki was told, spared again, and Namue promises to visit him in the near future. Of course, that will be interesting later on, because later on he becomes one of her familiars, sort of a familiar and junior.
An assistant.
To Tomoe.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't like
him. He doesn't trust snakes, and the snake doesn't trust the fox anyway, so a marriage made in heaven.
So the next one is, let me see, I'm going to try to keep this brief as I can. The next one is where she gets trucked out by another god from the home, and Tomoe turns into a teeny-weeny toddler-sized Tomoe.
Well, not toddler, a kid.
A kid,
yeah.
And she tries to look after him at the pop idol's house. The pop idol gets very affectionate in this episode. It's really
close and personally friendly.
Yeah, and I don't want to go into details there. Anyway, but she eventually does get her mark back, becomes the goddess again, the B-Land god again, and Tomoe gets his correct size again.
Yes.
And he grew some hair, his long hair again, and he was able to...
His hair got longer, didn't it?
Yeah, in this one, she kind of starts developing feelings for him. I mean, not before, but she starts feeling stuff.
Yeah, he's always come over as a grumpy, officious sort of guy, but I think he'd sort of just did that to protect himself.
She starts developing feelings, and she tries her luck to get those feelings out to tell him. But of course, he keeps reminding her that humans and their love interest in him, it doesn't matter to him. But we soon learn.
Well, he keeps saying that.
He keeps saying that. They try to spend each time as much as they can together.
Denial is the river in Egypt.
True. Anyway, eventually, they tried going to the beach, and she tries to. Well, there were some interesting scenes where they go to the beach, and she wears this beautiful bikini, and
Very nice.
I think he started liking her. Of course, he kind of has a big problem with the ocean. Big time.
He doesn't
He
like
even
water.
objected to the idea to take.
Oh, yeah, that's
go
right. Yeah,
there.
of course he had that problem with that other guy, didn't he? That ocean god guy thing, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, but this doesn't stop him from saving one of her friends who got nearly drowned, but he still gets caught by the sea god and taken to its kingdom, and she has to go and try to find. See, the creature lost his eye because Tomoe took
many years ago.
Yeah, many years ago, Tomoe stole his eye, which allows you to get healed and heals you and all that stuff. So Tomoe has to go back in time and tries to get the eye. See,
So Snake Familiar helped to do that.
yes, he has a special incense burner that allows you to travel back in time in spirit and bodily form.
Yes, so you can interact.
Yes, so in this case, she did do it. She did it twice in this series. She did it once when she was just wanted to see what Tomoe was all about. She was really sick at the time. She had a cold, and Tomoe.
Wasn't coronavirus, was it?
No.
No. Just checking. Okay.
This was in 2015, so technically.
Definitely wasn't coronavirus. Yeah.
So anyway, she does go back in time, but she finds out that he stole the eye because he was trying to save a love interest of his.
Yeah, funny.
Funny, haha. Anyway, she ends up helping the so-called love interest by putting the eye into her mouth and saving her. Of course, now that she knows the fact that she also finds out that the eye is inside Namoe's body for some reason.
Funny that.
Yeah, so she comes back to the present and was able to go to a sort of a sea witch or something to try to get the eye out of her. Of course, along the way, she's trying to steal her soul.
There's always a trade-off, isn't there, folks?
She said that she'll trade her 30 years of her life, but I think the witch tried to steal more than just her 30 years of her life. And she also found out that she was a land god, which makes it even more precious. But anyway, Mizuki was able to help her by he kisses Namoe on the lips, making him her familiar. And he then takes his anger out on the witch and was able to get her soul back, and they were able to get the eye, which is no bigger than a pea.
It's shrunk over the years.
Yeah.
A bit of dehydration, possibly.
Yeah, it was originally just this normal size of an eye,
But
now it's so shrunken down. Anyway, so they end up taking a sea turtle down to the kingdom, and there they meet the ocean god's wife.
No, Judd Dubbings?
No.
Wrong.
His wife, who made this beautiful coat for her husband. She was making it for 7 days.
Yeah.
And eventually they go to the kingdom, and Tomoe has been causing a bit of mayhem there. Again, it's the sea.
Usually in the trouble attitude problem.
Eventually, so funny when I think about this scene. She tries to close up again with Namoe, but she eventually tells him that she knows that he once loved and lost, and eventually she cuddles him and she tells him that they can go home. She then gives him the ocean god the eye, and he says, "What? It's shrunken down," all that stuff like that. And she says,
he wasn't very happy about that.
Yeah,
funny that.
Yeah, and his wife, who was tells him, "You've been moping about this thing for so many years,
so many centuries or whatever." Yeah.
Stuff like that, and And eventually...
He got into trouble with his missus.
He got into serious trouble, even though she loves him dearly and all that stuff. And eventually, Mizuki was able to find the cloak. It kind of got sucked down during the mayhem. And luckily enough, Mizuki was able to find it and present it to the king. At first, he says, "Why would I want some stupid, ugly rag like that?" And of course, his wife didn't like this.
Because she made it.
For 7 days, give or take. Well, no give or take.
Anyway, what happened? He had to bite his tongue and say, "Oh, what is very nice, whatever."
Yeah.
Move on.
And so they eventually head off, and Tomoe gets the news that Mizuki is now a familiar in training for Namue.
And lovely.
Oh, great.
An apprentice. Oh.
Anyway, moving on, we eventually hear more about Tomoe's past a little more, like why he became a familiar to his former land god, which is interesting. I mean, it turns out that he was cursed, and dear old the land god was able to tell him that I'll be able to help you heal from the curse, but you'll soon forget your old love interest.
Well, yeah, because he was hurting. When these familiars fall in love with anybody, it's for life, and he's an immortal. And he was hurting.
Yes, big time.
So his little mate, Mr. Magazi, was trying to make him forget about his past love because it was hurting him too much.
Yeah, anyway, along the way, Namue was able to try to take him to a theme park, and she also gets a present from Tomoe, a beautiful hairpin, which is very beautiful. It had these beautiful flowers on it and stuff like that. It was actually a hair stick, according to Tomoe. I'm not familiar with hair stuff.
The Japanese geishas stuff had those little
hair sticks.
Looks like a chopstick or stuff at the end of it. Put in your hair. Yeah, one of those sort of things. Yeah.
Anyway, he barely sees her with her hair up, so he never gave it to Namue for gosh knows reasons. But I think it goes deeper than that. But anyway, eventually, he gets into trouble with a few of the girls in the park because he is hot, after all. Without the ears and without the tail, he does come off really cute.
He looks like David Bowie on a bad day, you know?
I always said the same thing. Anyway, moving on. The final episodes where we get Namue going shopping, finding out that from the locals, they think the shrine she's living in is sort of haunted. And not too many people are going there because they think, oh, it's haunted, must not go there.
Fire.
So she decides to try to make a
fair up, the festival or something.
Special festival up there. And they
invite people to come and see that it's not a scary place.
Yeah, so some of the familiars suggest a few things. Some, like Mizuki suggests a bit of a sake tasting.
Yeah, he drinks a lot of sake.
He makes a lot of sake. And
he makes it, he drinks it, he shares it a little bit sometimes. And
yeah, it's very... And, of course, Tomoe suggests having people dressed up as demons
that might scare a few people away.
Yeah. Of course, our idol, the rock idol guy, he suggests that they have a special dance for that festival.
Or a ritual dance.
A ritual dance.
Yeah. Like a cleansing ritual or something. Yeah,
Tomoe knew of this, and I think that was the reason why he didn't bring it up, because he didn't think it was important. Yeah. So he eventually brings out this beautiful kimono gown. And
very beautiful, yes.
Yeah. And
even
then
for a cartoon.
Yeah, even for a cartoon, it's still very beautiful. And I just wish people in Japan would still wear this sort of thing. Even though it's not standard, people just wear the casual clothes these days. But I just think that type of style would be great at festivals and stuff. I would love to actually attend one of those things. Anyway, so he starts training her in the dance, but all the time she makes teeny mistakes that he points out and tells her, you make a mistake with your leg, you're going left,
turn
not
left,
right, stuff
right,
like that. You'll have it left, you'll have it right.
Anyway,
one of the spirits, one of the gods, decides to test her by sending miasma.
Miasma.
That's
the dark cloud for
it's
a creepy critter in it.
Yeah, it's a negative energy. You know, I mentioned to you guys early that they've been trying to exercise it away in some of these episodes. They're full of negative energies, full of evil demons, stuff like that. Anyway, Tom Waite and Mizuki tell her they'll handle it from here because she is useless, according to Tom Waite. He doesn't think she can do anything because she only can use her talismans to stop evil or not anything for that matter. It's a bit sad in the scene because she then starts realizing
perfect.
She then decides there and then to leave the shrine,
Okay.
and even uses one of the talismans to shield her away so that Tom Waite's powers could not find her. And then she changes her mind because she realizes that she has a responsibility for that shrine. So she heads back that way. Another miasma
yeah.
type thing starts opening. It was inside a box, inside I guess one of the sheds.
Yeah, it got damaged when they dropped the box, and it was starting to seep out slowly. Must have had some sort of binding enchantment
somehow,
or something under it.
the original Lion God, he had it sealed away, but he didn't completely made it go away completely, if you get my meaning. It was required for to actually exercise it by using the dance. So she gets the dress on and starts the ritual dance.
And she did pretty good.
And she does really well. And
the thing went away.
At one point, she ends up tripping on her kimono, but luckily enough, Tomo was able to shield her just briefly before she could continue. And the real land god is nearby, and he uses his powers, his butterfly powers, to change her kimono into... It was originally flowers, and then it turns into beautiful butterflies, and it changes this beautiful, glorious purple color. And then she continues the dance and vanquishes the monster. It was a giant spider, this big. I don't know.
She put her hands up really big, so just imagine it really big.
Yes, and anyway, she eventually vanquishes it, and then much later on, the festival is on full swing, and everyone's having a great time, and of course she does the dance really well, and at the end of the episode, Tomoe wants to seal with the familiar kiss. So they kiss, and when we watch the scene, it seems like the kiss is lasting longer than usual.
Yeah, when do we slip the tongue in?
I don't know.
Or
maybe she's making it deeper. Anyway, in season 2, let me see, it deals with her having more things pressing on her. Like she ends up with this...
Will you move along a bit?
She ends up looking after a monkey creature that she uses to help make the miasma disappear.
She was given this egg to look after, it was supposed to hatch, and she'd name it, and that name would be something to do with a power that'd help her, and it's something about peace and love or something or other, and help defeat evil and nastiness and stuff.
Yeah, and it was mostly a test because she was summoned by the other gods, to come to this special conference with the other gods, where on a mountain of sorts, or an area I'm not familiar of. So she is told this sort of egg thing was a test. Fortunately, the egg ended up hatching too early. It had to wait for, say, 7 or 6 days until then, she has to use her positive energies to feed the little creature thing.
Yeah.
And eventually the new miasma appears, and she uses the little creature, and they were able to vanquish the miasma away. Anyway, she eventually goes to this place. She brought one of her familiars with her. She was going to get them to decide between themselves who should be going with her, but in the end she went with Mizuki, I think it was, because she didn't think it was right for Tomoe to come with her, because there'll be a lot of sniggering, a lot of people...
he didn't have a lot of friends there.
No, a lot of people probably would dislike him, because he was originally an evil demon who would do bad things.
Yes, he had a history.
He had a history of doing bad things, in other words.
Yeah.
And he would not be welcome there.
Wouldn't be well received.
Yeah, anyway.
Well, Snake Guy's not too bad.
One of the head guards tell her to do as a small little task. Not really small, actually. It's a very big task. Where she has to cover up a rock that's sort of where the Netherworld is. Sort of the darkest parts of the supernatural world.
A gateway to hell.
A gateway to hell, if you will.
That's pretty good.
And
Hades or
she then meets a human who's actually, well, not really a human, actually.
He thinks he's a human.
Because it's a demon possessing a human, living inside a human, anyway.
Yeah. He took over a dead human's body.
Yes.
A good-looking dead human's body, but still a dead human's body.
Yeah, he has two minions, and she first helps him, and they eventually get sucked down to this Netherworld-type hell dimension.
Again.
And they eventually try to escape from a lot of evil deities down there, and eventually they do eventually get out, with thanks to Tomoe's, who decided to use his not-so-familiar powers, but his dark powers when he was a demon. Unfortunately, when he did do this, he got into severe problems because now that he was no longer familiar, he was going to be severely punished for his crimes.
Naughty.
But she was willing to try to help him, even if she eventually even uses some of her godlike ability to ask for special peach pills that are like healing pills.
Yeah, special healing pills.
Yeah, so if he didn't want to become her familiar, he can look after himself in his next life if she doesn't.
Yeah.
But eventually he does come to realize that he does like Namoi, and decides to become a familiar again. And after a bit of fisticuffs, he eventually starts feeling something for her a little bit, even though he would not admit it.
What are you going to talk about? Oh, the first thing that pops up. Sorry.
Yeah, funny.
Sorry. Okay, I'm being rude now.
Yes, quite right. Anyway, moving on. So they eventually return to their world, and she begins to question whether or not Tomoe and her can have a future together. Of course, some of the gods say, no, there's no future between his kind and yours. Sort of not so biased, but more of a
bird can marry fish, but where will they live?
Exactly.
Solid.
Considering he's
great wisdom.
Considering he's not human and she is a land god, even though she's a human
being as well.
Yeah, she's still a human being. And anyway, so she eventually goes back to her real world, and but then she doesn't stay there too long, because then she finds out that she's needed again by some crow being, I think he was.
I can't remember.
Who's asked to look for one of the pop idol, who is the fallen angel guy I told you about.
Yeah,
Kamara, and he's summoned by his community to try to help them, of course.
Yeah, anyway.
And of course, one of the guys down there is a nasty, abusive type, leader.
He wants to take over.
Yeah, I don't.
That's the guy. He wants to say the old guy is.
Yeah, the old guy is sick.
Stoned?
No, don't get me wrong, guys. He's not stoned as in.
He's almost turned
somehow his soul has been taken away.
And he's like a stone statue.
But at first they assume he's just sick.
Well, he keeps saying he's sick, but obviously he's been hidden away, so no one would know. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so Namue and Tomoe and whatever his name is, Krama, they go to this world using the special Tomoe's carriage. This is a special carriage that allows you to fly.
Fly through the sky.
So they
whatever.
So they head down there, and they meet one of I keep forgetting his name. Krama's old friends, who, according to their people, they don't really have too many women down there. I guess they're all males. I don't know how how this works, because how would it work if you end up having children?
Interesting.
It's an interesting thought.
IVF, no. Petri dish. Whatever.
Or maybe they just summon them with magic. I don't know.
That's An egg. There you go. What?
But an egg requires,
Someone sit on
Someone sit on it. Anyway, Namue does eventually meet this evil lord guy, and he somehow gets touched by her beauty and kind heart and stuff like that. Of course, he still sees this as a weakness. He doesn't like feeling soft. He's like an army type god, if you will.
Something like that.
Anyway, so they try to pretend that Kramus is a god, a land god, by dressing him up, and of course Namue hides the fact she's a girl by dressing up like a guy, obviously wearing a wig and
she's the man.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
She also had a night before. She and Tomei, they had a romantic moment, which is kind of beautiful. I thought it was beautiful, and because she went sleepwalking and she ends up in his bed.
Well, they had those little mats on the floor. He walked back to the wrong one and lay down next to him.
Yeah, and of course he's leaning over her, and she thinks, "Ooh, why are you doing in my bed?" But he's saying, "Hello, you're in my bed." And eventually she scuttles back in, and she feels like, "Oh my gosh, Anyway, so back to the story. They tried to use some, to hope to use sake to get the leader drunk. But unfortunately, it had the opposite effect. See, he's not easily swayed.
No, it doesn't affect him like it does old Snakey, does it?
No, or the Creamery. Anyway, he eventually traps both him and Tomei, and eventually Namue and her little companions, they get placed in the dungeon, and the evil leader appears before them. It doesn't recognize Namue, but he keeps calling her a nymph or an imp. A
nymph.
Yeah, little Namue.
Not an nymphomaniac, just a nymph. Okay.
Yeah, like an elf nymph. Anyway.
Like a little forest creature.
Yeah, eventually he acts aggressive, but eventually she tells him off, and eventually he leaves, and this new minion of theirs he's not a crow like the other minions. He's actually more of a different entity, if you will.
Somewhat.
And he tries to torture them, but luckily Namue was able to use her positive powers to get him to admit that he was the one who likely caused the old leader to suffer and lose his soul. And his soul is deep underneath the establishment.
And they eventually find him.
Yeah, eventually they do find him, and they then she realizes that the only way to get her powers to find the old leader's soul is by trying to use her own powers, her own influence to get rid of the evil leader's influences. So she uses her monkey and herself. They run through the complex and she covers the whole...
And they spread all this goodness and stuff and break all these barriers down somehow or other.
Yeah, and eventually they do find the entrance to where the soul is, and this is guarded by an evil...
dragon? Big snake?
Something beasty creature.
Big thing.
Yeah. Eventually, they fight it, and eventually the creature coughs it up like a hairball.
Yeah. It's inside him. Yeah. Very good hiding place there.
Yeah. Of course, the evil leader, he was saving Namue, and he even admits to her that he loves her. And both Tomei and Crow and all the others were surprised by this. Like, he expressed his love. What is going to happen next?
Lovely.
At first, he ends up being... He looks like he's about to die, but luckily enough, she uses her peach pills and was able to save him. And he even offers, when he revives later on, and much later, he wants her to stay, like become part of their community. But they're still not really used to women down there. She'll be like, I think it's like looking at if a cannibal, like
she'd be really popular on Saturday night.
She'd be very. It would be like an outsider joining.
Exactly.
And it would not be very easy to deal with. Anyway, so they end up having a party in the end, and she gets drunk on sake
Again.
muffins.
Sake muffins?
Oh, not muffins. I mean sake balls. I don't know. I don't want to call.
Probably hash cakes. Yeah.
Anyway, she eventually Tomway gives her a piggyback ride back to the carriage, where she continues acting weird, and she mumbles, "I love you, Tomway, so much." And he, in his mind, I guess, says, "I love you too." Anyway, moving on to the final 2 episodes, where they have to go to another world where they have to find a New Year talisman.
There was one god was in charge of the years, and it was too hard, so they used to change gods every year.
Yes.
Who's going to be responsible for the next 12 months.
They have to go through a special archway that allows them to...
like a portal.
Which is kind of... You kind of relive the
Your
years in the past by going through this sort of thing. Namwe goes through hers, and there, Tomway and Mizuki follow her, and they view her past. And they saw a little Namwe and
the mummy.
Yeah, and we see how she developed and stuff like that. And Tomway kind of appears to her in the past and was able to comfort her and offer her the joys and the beautiful side to life a little bit. Of course, he even tells her much later in one scene that one day you will be a head of a household that will be really very noisy and stuff like that.
And actually,
he says,
actually pretty close.
And she says, "Does that mean I'm going to get married and stuff like that?" And he says, "Yes." And he says, and she asks him, "Do you love me?" All that stuff. And of course, it took him a while, and then he realized, "Yes, I do love you." And she says, "Are you going to marry me?" And she says, "Yes." And it was nice. It was kind of cute. And of course, this is being when she's about 6 and
7 or 8,
or 6
a child.
And bear in mind, I don't have too many memories of those days, except for a few little pieces here and there. I think most everyone does remember bits and glimmers of their past, but not everyone does. Considering she had a very sad one because her dad,
her mum died, and dad ran away due to creditors chasing him around.
And she had no photos of her mum because they got burned in a fire.
In a fire, yeah.
So technically, she had a very dark but very sad childhood.
Lonely.
So no doubt the dark side to it may have got rid of the nice good stuff here and there.
Probably.
Sometimes that happens.
Move
sometimes.
on a little bit.
Anyway,
go to bed.
they eventually go to the year god, and they were able to. While he was actually shaving the zodiac sheep, which has lots and lots of fur. I mean,
the size of 2 or 3 houses. It's really big.
Yeah, of course. The zodiac.
Anyway, they finally trimmed it down to the size of a puppy dog.
Yeah, and eventually they get the New Year talisman, and he gives her a present in return for her help for shearing the sheep by giving her a photo of her mother, using his powers from her memories and stuff like that.
He's a good guy, hey.
Yes. So they eventually go back to their world. They're about to celebrate the New Year, stuff like that. Everyone is having their own separate, joint celebrations where the crow guy, Star Idol, he gets a few visitors from the crow guys from his world who wish to celebrate the new year with him and probably take and do some respect to Namwe. No surprise there. Anyway, eventually Mizuki asks Namwe, "Are you going to marry and leave the shrine and all that stuff? Because I really would like you to stay single and old and no man will want you."
Yeah,
it's not in the nice
possible way.
But she says that she doesn't plan to get married for a long time. But she says, however, that might change. Anyway, the final season, if you will, is only 4 episodes long. Well, I'm not sure 4 episodes. It seems more longer than the usual.
4 longer episodes, but yeah.
In this one, Tomway gets very, very sick, unwell, and it has something to do with his past, a past promise he had to make A past deal, I mean.
He made a deal with some witch to turn him into a human being so he could live with his loved one. But the deal didn't get set properly, and his loved one died, and it got very complicated.
Yeah,
a bit like Days of Our Lives or something or other.
Exactly.
You know.
So it's up to Namway to try to find a way to cure him, and the other way was to find out more about the deal. So she ends up using Mizuki's
travel lamp.
No, not travel lamp. It's
it's
a incense burner.
Yeah,
thing.
the travel
it's
lamp.
Not a lamp.
Okay, the incense burner thing, whatever.
Anyway,
use that. Went back in time again.
So she travels back in time, back to the time when he met his first love interest. I don't know her name. Obviously,
it doesn't matter.
It's not important.
Pretty lady. Yeah.
Anyway,
looked remarkably like her, didn't she?
Very. Anyway, so he goes back in time, and eventually she meets the said nice lady, and of course, they mistake her for a demon, I think.
Well, she was dressed in modern day clothes.
She was wearing modern day clothes, but luckily enough, she was able to step in and was able to help her out and get her some nice modern day for that period type clothes. Yeah,
the period clothes. Yeah.
Anyway, so meanwhile, Tomoe and another demon who they're very close friends with, is attacking some locals, and Tomoe, he gets injured, and I guess he eventually by the locals, and eventually he tries to get away. Of course, Tomoe knows about this. She knows about the fight he gets into and from Mizuki, and she heads down there. She tries to get Tomoe's love interest to come with her, but she's not interested in it because she has a past grudge about these demons, because she had in the past
her village
was destroyed by these said demons and doesn't want anything to do with them anymore. So anyway, Tomoe heads down to the lake, and Tomoe disguises himself as a kid. But she was lucky enough to find him and knows what he looks like, and she eventually takes him in her arms. And all the time he's wondering, this is the woman that he knows this woman from her past, from previously, her past visits in the first season, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she takes her to the lady's house, and they begin to nurse him back to health. And slowly, Namway uses the special peach pills to help him heal. And all the time, she's given him rice cakes, because he likes rice cakes, whatever they call them.
Rice cakes.
And she comes to him at night time and starts, looking after him. Even though all the time he keeps wondering, he's only informed by the younger servant of the household that she was the mistress of the house.
Yeah.
And he starts thinking that's her identity. And so he begins to loves her touch, and starts thinking once he's recovered, he plans to take her away.
Yes, but he's getting the two ladies mixed up.
Yes, exactly so. Anyway, he knows of one lady in the village that is a very big beauty in that town.
Whatever.
Area. Anyway, but of course this lady, she's going to head to her father in a couple of days to meet with her father and a man who promises to marry her much later, and hopes to propose to her and all that stuff. So she heads off and leaves Namway with the little boy servant to look after Tomoe. Of course, she continues her visits at night, and Tomoe wakes at one moment, and of course Namway hides behind the curtain. And of course, he's a little disappointed for not getting to see her face. Anyway, later one night, as she makes plans to leave that very night to go to a god, not a forgotten god, to talk to and try to find the god whom Tomoe made this deal with.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she heads off, and Tomoe follows behind her because he hears about the fact she's going to be married in a couple of days, and he wants to break her, according to him, because if he can't have her, no one can.
bugger.
But eventually, when she's walking, she starts developing arthritis in her joints. Don't ask me why, but according to the story, is that when she stays in the past, when she's
her body starts to break down.
Her body starts breaking down because of the amount of days she's been staying there.
She's staying too long.
Anyway, he was about to grab her, but he notices that the arthritis in her legs giving out, and he decides to save her from a poisonous snake that was about to bite her. So he ends up disappearing, but she knows the foxfire. That's what it's called, foxfire. That's his ability.
That's a weapon thing. Yeah. A blue flamey thing.
Of course, she meets the god, and she offers her peach pills to the creature in exchange to meet this other fallen god that will help her find the cure for Tomoe's condition. Of course, she doesn't get her answer, and she ends up heading back to the present. And of course, she realizes that she must go back there again to find the answers, because she still hasn't found the answers yet. So in the next episode, she goes down there again, and this time she does appear in the town where the lady is, and according to her, she says that the relationship that she had set aside to meet up with didn't work out. The guy practically threw himself at her, and she actually kicked him, but she's found another likely guy who will look after her, and he's a lord, obviously.
A few bucks. Hey, you're marrying well, yeah.
Quite. Of course, she's not related to her father, just so you guys know. Her family...
He's a foster parent, because obviously her family got destroyed when her village was decimated.
Yeah, so she's got some things in common with Namoe's background a little bit, when you think about it.
Yes.
She wants a family, she wants to have something, and she feels connected to Namoe in so many ways. And then we get wind, one of the demons appears at Namoe and is about to kill her, thinking that she is the lady, obviously, but it's not. And of course, the lady appears and slashes the demon's head off. And of course, as it dies, it says the evil demon that Tomoe's best friends with is going to come for you, stuff like that.
Blah, blah, blah.
So she's labeled to be either killed or stolen during her wedding procession. I don't know much about it, but I know a wedding procession is like a weird ceremony where you're carried on a litter
between town to town.
To your promising intendant. Yeah.
Your intended, yes.
Yes.
The problem was going to be, though, how to save her.
So Namoe was able to suggest to her dad, why don't you let me go in her place? So we
look enough alike. I'll dress up in her clothes and make myself look like her.
Yeah, of course the lady says she doesn't want her new best friend to get hurt, but Namoe insists, so she...
And Dad thinks it's a good idea.
Yeah, because he cares, I think he cares more about his daughter's, not getting harmed, but the fact that, money's money.
And gets married off, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yes, exactly so. So, anyway, the wedding procession goes forward, and Namoe looks great. She looks beautiful. She even says, this is fun, being dressed as a bride. And she remarks to herself what the present Tomoe would say to her when she's dressed like that. And he says that it's a really funny comment. Anyway, so the wedding procession continues, and then a demon appears and starts attacking the guards and her. And she tries to use her talisman to get away, but then the demon throws a dart into her direction and cuts into her leg, which allows her to bleed a little bit, and then somehow it has a drug in her that kind of paralyzes her body. Slowly, and
poor little thing.
And he's about to kill her, but then Tomoe appears and slashes, kills the demon. And he says, and the demon remarks, "Why do this? You work for what's-he-face?" And he says he doesn't work for him, and he does not want him to take what he wants. So he grabs Namoe and says that you are mine now. And he takes her and he starts taking her into the forest, into a shack, and he's about to have his way with her, I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah, knowing that she's still paralyzed down from the neck down, from the head down. And
Yep.
and she couldn't. The only thing she could do is blink and stare, or even speak.
And then he started to feel sorry for her. And
Yeah, she pleads with her, not for him not to look her in her face, because she knows that when he sees her face, he'll know that she will not be the lady.
Yeah.
But I don't think he even seen too much of her, the other lady's
'cause-
face
yeah.
much. He's seen a lot more her than
Anyway.
her. So anyway, she begs, and he then says he can't stand the fact she's crying, and he cuddles her. And next morning, we see him cuddling up to her body, and she freaks out, and he's about to approach her again, tries to give her a kiss, but she quickly bats him away, and I guess, I'm not even sure what would happen if he did kiss her. Maybe, would that mean the familiar contract would bind them again? I don't know.
I think it only works for God, though, doesn't it?
If there's a contract between them.
I don't know. how it
Considering that
works.
she's
Then
still
it doesn't matter.
Considering she's still a land god in this situation,
Yes.
and all that stuff, I do wonder during
That
those.
might.
Yes, it does question. So anyway, she bats him away, and he's about to pick her up again and take her to his home. Of course, she tells him, "No, you cannot take me anywhere, or willy-nilly, as you will." But so she eventually tells him to go away, and she tells him that she hates him. And he then leaves, and he realizes that she's in an awkward situation because in this shack is not his.
It belongs to
some
bandits or something. Yeah.
And the bandits appear, and they're about to have their way with her,
Yeah,
or
and
kill
3
her,
of them.
or both, maybe. But luckily, Tomoe appears, and he's about to kill the leader. But luckily enough, Tomoe appears and approaches him and tells him, "No, don't hurt him," all that stuff. And he asks her why and all that stuff. But he eventually calms down and says, "Tell me you don't hate me." And she eventually says in a calm way, "I don't hate you." And then he drops his sword, and then he, as they're resting by a lake, he approaches her, and he wants to know a little bit more about her and about. He even has her hair stick, and he thinks this is a gift from her betrothal, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a gift from him, technically, in the future.
Yeah, it was. Funny that, eh?
Yeah, and she keeps saying, "Just because I say I don't hate you does not mean I don't like you," all that stuff.
Yeah, whatever.
But eventually,
Get on with it.
But he refuses to take her back to her home because he says, "You are mine," and all that stuff. Therefore, you're no dice, lady. But he eventually takes her to a beautiful blossom trees. It's so beautiful to be honest.
Cherry blossom tree, yeah.
Yeah, and as they're nestled be under some trees, he asks if she loves him, and of course she decides to answer in her own way. And what other chance will she get to say "I love you" without being where he continues to deny it? So she finally says, "I love you, and you have always had my heart," stuff like that. And he finally feels like he's got accepted her. But she says, "Not now, but later on, like in the future, then I'll marry you," and all that stuff. Of course, her arthritis is setting in. The thing that's
the body's closing down.
So she tells him, "I must go back. I have to get back." So he quickly uses his powers to take her back to her said betroval's house. She tells him to put her out the back because she doesn't want the lady or the betrothal to see
her because she's going to disappear.
Yeah. So he then says, "Okay, I promise. I hope you." So he asks her for a trinket, as a promise, a keepsake for the promise of letting her marry her one day. So she gives him her hair hair stick, and then he leaves, and she slowly disappears. And now she has to figure out who to. Finally, decides to do a final go back to the past again. So for a second, third time.
We should hurry up.
So, I'm sorry, guys. So she goes back to the past again. This time, she does eventually find the god that she's looking for, and this time, the god explained the full truth of why he made this promise. He says that he promised that he will make him human, so to be with this girl. But then, fate interfered that this said girl died.
Yeah,
and
so it wasn't completed properly.
Yeah, and he gave him the hair stick as a bit of a, as a payment to, as a bit of a bargaining chip.
Whatever.
I'm not sure. I mean,
whatever you want to call it.
Anyway,
okay, move on.
The demon eventually swallows the hair stick, and he tells her that while he didn't finally given to Talbus, Tomoe's promise. He says that he envies the fact that Tomoe was able to meet and fall in love with a human, while he never did.
Yes.
And he slowly dies, and Tomoe gives the god a kiss on the cheek as he dies. Then we cross over to, I'm not sure, not the present per se, but she eventually meets the land god, and I think we're still in the past.
Yeah, on the way through the present, wasn't it?
Yeah, and she approaches him, and he doesn't recognize her.
Because he hadn't been born yet.
Yeah, and she then tells him about Tomoe and about the promise, and I guess this is where she may
that could be why, that could have been before he got to know about Tomoe's problem.
Maybe.
So she told him about the problem.
Yeah. Whatever stuff she told him. Eventually, she does arrive into the present, and was able to use the Tomoe's carriage to find the hair stick, which is the kind of the thing that will get him to be cured. So she heads to the place, and she finds the hair stick, and while this is happening, Tomoe and the land god are talking, and the land god explains to him that the lady that he fell in love with was actually Namoe's great. Well, I'm going to say she's an ancestor to Namoe.
Lots of greats. Yeah.
So she's just an ancestor to Namoe.
So
meaning she has, despite Tomoe's impressions about the human race, the land god explains that humans are not weak, they're strong, and Namoe is a good example of these very traits. And Namoe eventually appears, and Tomoe's inside this special mirror, which allows him to heal.
They transfer him inside the mirror to stop him from dying too quickly.
Yeah, eventually Namoe appears, and she produces this hair stick and tells him about how this was a promise to one day marry one another. And eventually I think he started realizing that Namoe was actually the woman he loved all along. And he then embraces her, and his scars on his face and his body disappear.
And he feels real better.
And she asks him, "Do you know who I am?" And he says, "Namoe." And then she says, "That's right." And they kiss. And then we get to a 15 or 14 minute episode, not long, very short.
Can you make this really quick? We're going overtime now.
They're discussing the upcoming marriage between Tomoe and Namoe. And the land god, the old land god, tells them that they're not ready yet. That Tomoe needs to learn more about being human
beings.
And Namoe is still, even though she's still a land god, she still needs to go back to trying to be human again, which means that they have to face those big challenges.
So they gave them 12 months to do it.
Yeah, a year. And so also the god from season 2 came there and said to them that he promises to possibly give Tomoe the chance of becoming a human again. So they have to wait a whole year for their chance of being happy. So they wait a whole year, a long time, and eventually Namway graduates from high school.
Gets a
and,
job.
Yeah.
McDonald's
like
or somewhere. Or, yeah.
Well, actually, according to the
Hungry
book...
Jack's?
No, according to the book, she becomes a teacher.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
But who knows how that works. Anyway, and Mizuki becomes, I guess, the old land god's familiar. He even makes him his favorite sake.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's a good idea. And
Tomei gets a job as a...
Yeah, he works in a company. Well, that comes much later.
He's a smart fellow. Yeah.
Anyway, so I just hope he learns to deal with humans.
Yes,
That's a big,
anyway,
which is probably explains...
And they happily have roughly got a cat and got a house.
Yeah. Well, actually, they do end up having a child, and when she was on maternity leave from the school, they actually return to the shrine and reunite with their old friends, even though they probably can't see them.
Well, they might see them.
They may see them.
Special dispensations.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the story, guys. I'm sorry it's a little longer than usual.
It is a long season, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 3 seasons long.
Yeah, that's why I went over time. So, yeah, don't be afraid to put this on pause and go to the toilet and get a cup of coffee and come back again. But, what? A bit late now, isn't it?
Yeah, I do give this series a really good watch. I'm going to be blunt here, but I'm going to be real quick.
I don't necessarily like reading subtitles, which this one didn't have subtitles.
That's a relief.
But a lot of these Asian, Japanese, Chinese, Indonesian, whatever, they often have subtitles, and I'm really tired. I have trouble reading them. It was refreshing to actually have it done having English overdubbed, and it was easy. And it was enjoyable. Manga meets anime. It works quite well. Good, basic, simple storyline, inoffensive. I think anyone could watch it without too much problems. Yeah, there's no slashes. It's not a big action movie. It's just a nice, pleasant series of stories put together to make a movie. Yeah,
and I don't mind.
It's good.
And I like that in manga that they often like to explore Japanese mythology a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes they dig into that. And actually, sometimes they actually do the live action ones using human beings in it and do the same sort of thing. Like we saw that one of that something or other O20.
Love to O20.
Yeah, that was like an anime sort of manga feeling, but used human beings going into a computer game.
Yeah, I like that one.
That wasn't bad. And we saw Love Splash or Splash Love.
Splash Love.
Splash Love. That was Real Person one, wasn't it?
Yeah, Real Person.
And then we saw the other one for Real Person. What's the other one? The time slip one we saw.
Wonderful Fate.
Yeah, Wonderful Fate. I mean, they're really good. They're inoffensive, nice, friendly storylines. I think anyone can enjoy them. But the only thing I don't like about this one, they did use the word bastard a couple of times in it when they're getting annoyed. But it's here and there. It's not all the way through it. It's not gross. So, yeah.
Bastard technically is not too much of a swear word.
It's not a bad word, that bad. Not like the other ones.
It's not as bad as saying, I'm not going to say them online.
The other words, we're not going to say them. No, we have
our rules.
We might have a young listening audience. We won't say them.
We have our rules here.
Yeah, but we won't say those words. But, the B word, it's not too bad. But apart from that, I think it's a good, friendly movie. I can't tell you what the ratings were, but I couldn't find anything on ratings. But I found it was pretty enjoyable. I could watch it without getting puking and throwing up in the corner. I didn't need an aeroplane sick bag or anything for it. Sarah likes this sort of stuff, and I think, other people who are into manga and anime stuff would really enjoy this.
Yeah,
so I'm going to grade it based on. I'm going to give it a 9.
I'm going to give it a 9 too. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I did think that I do like. Thanks to Romantic Killer, it has kind of renewed my faith in some rewatching anime again.
Yeah. I don't mind. Actually, I grew up years ago watching some of the stuff, the manga anime stuff. Yeah, Astro Boy comes to mind, and other things. They were good fun. When as a kid, I used to enjoy it. I saw the first ones. It's not any remakes, the real ones. Long time ago. Yeah, and I've never actually minded them. I do think some parts are overacted a little bit here and there, but that's just the style. So, hey, if you can get over that, it's not a problem.
It isn't a problem.
There you go. I'm going to kill it now. I don't have anything more to say, and these people want to go to bed. Okay?
Yeah, guys. Thanks for listening to our this year's podcast episode.
Well, the first one. It's like a double almost, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully we'll get back to you guys soon with any more new ones. I mean, I might be a tad busy on certain occasions. I'll try to make sure I get every single podcast out to you guys as much as I can, and get in as much as episodes I can to get you guys juices flowing for this year.
Well, Sarah's been busy through January doing some filming. He's got she's in the post-edit stage and whatever, and it gets complicated. So, we've got to do a few things.
So, I'll pretty much make sure we get plenty of episodes ready and
we'll get
already
a few, we'll get
uploaded.
them queued like a taxi rank, Anyway, we've got to go. These people want to... It's getting far too long. So.
All right, sorry, guys. So, this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying, see you guys around on Boys and Ghouls Film Review. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.